Hello, hello. I'm your cult boyfriend, and today we're talking about Gossip Girl season 2. And wow, I loved it. I continue to love this show so much. I am getting worried, right? I'm not getting worried. I'm just like after these first two seasons, it is my favorite television show. But I guess I'm worried because we have four more seasons, and this is normally the point where a lot of shows start showing third season and onwards, they start showing signs of weaknesses. But so far, Gossip Girl is just incredibly beautiful. Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage are incredible television auteurs and showrunners. I love the work they did with Gossip Girl. It continued the beautiful philosophical dialogue that was ever present in the first season. It continues it in the second. I think it expands it, and I think it does a lot of, like, subtle rearrangements of its own anatomy within the show, like, structurally, that I found very interesting. I think we should talk about the more, complex, concepts first. Let's front load this analysis with the more complex things first. So, gossip, according to, the first season of Gossip Girl, and also gossip according to most postmodern films. Please watch the film from 2000 called Gossip. It's one of my favorite films ever. Stars James Marsden, Lena Headey, um, and fuck, I'm drawing a blank. I'm so sorry. Norman Reedus and Joshua Jackson. Please watch that movie. It's incredible. Kate Hudson gives a phenomenal performance in it, and it's an interesting precursor to Gossip Girl. But Gossip Girl does it better than Gossip. Gossip, the film, asks the question: Is gossip fun? Gossip Girl answers it with, Not only is it fun, it's unavoidable." So gossip, as according to Gossip Girl, is truth given narrative, or even untruth given deliberation, given purpose, right? Truth is just a sheet of facts. The narrative is what history is made out of. History isn't made out of dates and times and specifics. History is an organization of narratives. Meta narratives involved too. In fact, the confluence of gossip, the construction of gossip, is how meta narratives are formed. And we, as people living in the society of the spectacle, we kind of look at our lives cinematically. We look at our lives thematically, right? Which might not be necessarily organic ways to view life, but we do view it that way as we've been trained through literature, through film, through television, through theater to look for arcs within our own lives. Look for those moments where things change. Look for those moments of character growth. We look at ourselves as characters and the people around us as additional players and co-stars. Gossip is what provides us with those arcs. And in the postmodern world, which gossip is a postmodern masterpiece, so far 2 seasons in, it's a postmodern masterpiece. Gossip is exactly how truth is given narrative, because truth doesn't necessarily have an objective value. In fact, the only way that truth or untruth has value is the narrative that propels them forward. And on Gossip Girl in season 2, they start to, you can give leads and scoops to the Gossip Girl website, to the Gossip Girl blog, and you can affect the narrative within your own life. You can use a lie to gain a greater sense of closure or to make your arc come full circle. You can use the truth to make your arc come full circle. You can impact, manipulate, and kind of chart the course of your own character growth and development, including the growth of those around you. And that's literally how, in our postmodern universe, that's how we actually survive anyway. That's how we live. That's how we grow. Growth is a byproduct of narrative and meta narratives. Growth is not a part of the actual human experience. The human experience, as we know it today in our postmodern universe, is gossip. Gossip is the way that we interact with truth. It's the way that we interact with the people in our lives. It's the way that truths are formed. It doesn't necessarily matter if it's actually objectively true. What matters is that the narrative is good, if the narrative is juicy, if the narrative leads you to an arc or to a downfall. That's what matters more than truth. Truth is just a characteristic of gossip, which may or may not necessarily be true. It's full of contradictions, but so is revolution, so is love, so is the idea of development as a mature human being. And season two of Gossip Girl is really interesting because near the end of it, they try to out the Gossip Girl. And in a large way, they're trying to out like God. It's almost social deicide. They're trying to out the person who has set them, who has pushed them into certain directions. So they're trying to out the writer, the the author of their existence, of their lives. Because without Gossip Girl kind of pushing these people into kind of areas that are interesting, that are dramatic, we wouldn't have had these character dynamics or character arcs. And by the end, the characters themselves inside Gossip Girl start to actively reject and rebel against whoever Gossip Girl is. But there is a sense of companionship when Gossip Girl's like, "Well, you didn't catch me, but I'll be coming to college with you." God is dead. God has long been dead in the postmodern universe. And I mean, we don't need symbols like that. But what God provided us before was gossip. And what do we have now? We have gossip incarnate, gossip eternal, gossip literal. And I thought that was extremely interesting. It's always extremely interesting to see how um how the 6 or 7 main characters in Gossip Girl interact with gossip, and form their own identity crises, and definitely reach a new sincerity through the untruth of Gossip Girl. I mean, Chuck Bass refused the notion of a character arc at the end of the first season, and in this one, as motivated by the meta narratives that were being exposed by the Gossip Girl blog, he tells Blair that he loves her. It takes him in 22 entire episodes, a whole season, to tell her that he loves her, and he tells her it over and over and over again. And that's what we end the season on. Gossip doesn't necessarily lead to terrible things. That is absolutely untrue of gossip. Gossip is written by the postmodern hand of God, which of course is dead, but we have a narrative, and we should all be thankful for narratives. When Gossip Girl is outing them at their graduation, she tells them exactly what archetype they are, what role they have filled. Nate is the class whore, Dan is the ultimate insider, Blair a weakling, Chuck a coward, and Serena officially irrelevant. It propels these characters to actually fulfill some sort of mature character growth or development. Being called out like that brings the characters closer to their arc, like to actually complete their arc, to the completion of their growth throughout the season, because some of them weren't gonna go there, because we have very stubborn characters in Gossip Girl, and sometimes the meta narrative has to be challenged, and then the characters within it have to feel as if they're rejecting the meta narrative by trying to figure out and expose who Gossip Girl's identity really is. But by doing that, Gossip Girl as a show and as a blog, as this entity, as this divine one, has won because that sort of rejection of the meta narrative helps every single character fulfill a character arc because they were on the edge of completing it. They just needed a push. They just needed to be ridiculed by the narrative itself so that the characters within it would reject the meta narrative to actually fulfill the arcs that were established in the first episode of season two and actually do come to completion by the end of the second season. It's an extremely complex and sophisticated kind of quality that I'm talking about, but it is ever present in all of Gossip Girl and all the first 2 seasons that I've watched, and I am so floored and stunned by that because I do think that that's deeply philosophical. I do think that that is speaking to me as a person, and to you, if you would be so cynical as to approve of my postmodern reading of the human condition. I think that Gossip Girl is extremely intelligent, and I think that its philosophy is unparalleled. I think it's a beautiful show and entirely sophisticated. Josh Schwartz, the showrunner, is a fucking genius and undervalued as one of the great artists of his time. I'm so impressed by Gossip Girl season two. My favorite characters continue to be Blair and Chuck. I loved their back and forth here. And just when you think the show has started something that it couldn't finish or lost interest in, like Blair sleeping with Jack, Chuck's uncle, and they kind of brush that away, but they bring it back at the very end. I'm like, oh my God, Gossip Girl, you did think this through. I thought that you dropped the ball on that topic, but no, it came through because it had to in order for Blair to fulfill her arc. Because that was like a seed that was planted 10 or 12 episodes before. And you'd think by watching poor television shows or poor teen dramas that that was just a ball that they considered that was an avenue they considered going down and exploring, but then chose against it. No, that's exactly the avenue they were supposed to go down in order for Chuck to come to terms with his love for Blair. Chuck would not have reached his arc this time had the narrative itself, had the Gossip Girl blog, which is a stand-in for the creator like Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage, um, had it not prompted him to reject the meta narrative of it all and accept Blair Waldorf and vice versa too. Like it's so fucking smart. But Chuck is delightful this season. I still find him incredibly cinematic. I think he's a fascinating character, and he's still kind of villainous that I love. And Blair, oh my God, um, Leighton Meester is just extraordinary. Not only is she beautiful, she's the most entertaining character on this entire show. Um, Reminds me a little bit of Rachel Bilson on the OC, which makes sense because Josh Schwartz, who is the auteur behind Gossip Girl, was also the auteur behind the OC. But I think that Blair is pulling it off a lot better, and Blair is a lot more sophisticated than Summer was. And but I'm saying that in the sense that he is kind of given this freedom as an actor to do some really interesting and insane things with her performance, and it always pays off. She's always so fascinating to watch and entertaining as all fuck. She's the coolest person on the entire show. And Chuck and Blair together, that's where you get dangerous liaisons. That's where you get cruel intentions. That's where you get like a microcosm of the future leaders of the fucking world playing these little cruel and callous games with these social dynamics and politics, and you can kind of extrapolate that to a larger scale thing that's going on with the elites and the wealthiest people in our country as adults, and it's really cool to see. I love those two together. Georgina Sparks comes back, who is my eternal crush. Michelle Trachtenberg, marry me eventually. You don't have to do it right now, but down the road, I'll wait for you. Georgina Sparks is so fucking cool. And she comes in near the end of the season, right? And it plays into my reading of it as a rejection of the narrative to manipulate the meta narrative to achieve an actual arc because they bring her in to combat. It's Army Hammer who's playing Gabriel and Poppy, a socialite, who are kind of like the de facto villains of this season, and they are a little underwhelming. Army Hammer does fine, but Poppy is truly a forgettable presence, and I think she should have been a much more fierce kind of figure in the show. But Gossip Girl makes good on that shortcoming by bringing Georgina Sparks back. And when she comes back, she's come back from that reformatory school, right? She's all about Jesus. And Blair and Chuck and Serena and even Dan and Nate are like, no, no, we have to get Georgina back into character. We have to get her back into the role that she occupies within this narrative. We have to snap her out of this and get her back into character. And like over time, Georgina makes that switch, and she is back to being evil and sexy and perfect. Tell Jesus that the bitch is back. And we don't actually get to see what Georgina does to Poppy to get all of the money that she scammed from everyone in New York back. We don't actually see what she does to Poppy, which I do think is a slight missed opportunity because in the episode before like the way that it's set up is that she turns and she's like watching Poppy from like a limo, and she tells Blair on the phone that the bitch is back and don't worry about Poppy. I'll destroy her. Then the next episode, we don't see Georgina, and it spends an awful lot of time in a flashback to Lily's youth. We got a lot of cool cameos in there, like Ryan Henson from Veronica Mars, and of course Kristen Ritter from Veronica Mars and Gilmore Girls. It's great seeing her, and also Psycho Derek. It was cool, but I didn't necessarily think it informed the character of Lily, but I think what would have been far more fascinating is if they kind of cut that out and designated more resources to actually watching Georgina destroy Poppy. I think that would have been more interesting to watch. I also just want to watch Michelle Trachtenberg more, so like it might be coming from a horny place rather than an insightful one. But I actually do think that it's a weird thing to do in the episode before the finale, have a flashback episode that feels a bit more playful than powerful. I think that if we saw what Georgina did to Poppy, that would have been more powerful. But I'm sure Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage, I'm sure that Gossip Girl had its reasonings for this. And we do get to see Georgina in the finale for a few minutes saying that Poppy's done for. Check your bank account. I got all your money back. And by the way, I would love to be a roommate with my best friend Blair. I can't wait for season three. I love Georgina Sparks so much. She is my Abby Morgan, Rachel Katina wrecking ball from hell, and I want to marry her. She's also Faith from Buffy. I just want to marry this fucking chick. Georgina's great, but what's most fascinating about her inclusion is the part where Chuck and Blair and the people who she wronged so deeply in the first season, because she was the primary antagonist of the first season, ultimately. Those people that she wronged, her victims, were like, no, we have to get you back into character. You're back into the Upper East Side narrative, Georgina. You need to be evil. I don't care if you found God. Jesus is a fucking joke. We need to get you back into the narrative. Remember your role. Remember what archetype you occupy. Remember who you are because we need you now, and she snaps back into it for the benefit of the narrative of the show. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And that's telling of our actual lived experiences. Georgina wasn't allowed to have an arc and become a good person because the heroes of Gossip Girl needed to complete theirs. Which what is damaging to Georgina Sparks is thrilling for me to see, and also incredibly valuable for the main 6 or 7 characters of Gossip Girl. It's incredible. It's incredible to consider. I loved being around all of these characters. I love Nate to death, and Nate has really impressed me with where they're going with his character and how they always seem to pull it off. Like sometimes I feel like Nate is the half considered character here. Like they have well, Nate and Vanessa are kind of half considered ultimately. It feels like they have a very, very good idea of Chuck, Blair, Dan, Jen, Serena, Rufus, and Lily. But when it comes to Nate and Vanessa, I think they're a bit more loose with it, which I think is good for teen drama. Like I don't want everything to feel like a switch watch. Swiss watch. Why would I say a term that I can't actually say? Swiss watch. I don't want everything to feel hyper organized and like directed. I like a bit of looseness with it because where I can see where the Blair and Chuck or Serena arcs are taking me, I had no clue what they were going to do with Nate and Vanessa. And the most exciting part is I don't necessarily think that they knew either. I think that they were their kind of loose, more free kind of narrative formats to look at. And they ended up doing some really cool and I feel like spontaneous things with Nate and Vanessa. Nate particularly impressed me. I think Nate has a lot more depth to him than Vanessa because Nate is this punished rich boy in season 2. He is punished. His father is arrested by the FBI. His mother is really weird. He's taken advantage of, exploited sexually by like a Machen Amick cameo in here, by the older rich women within the Upper East Side. Uh he's pushed aside for Chuck by Blair. Uh I think that he is punished deeply in this season, but they pull it off so well. Nate takes it with grace, honestly. He's the most gracefully punished rich boy I have ever seen on a television show. He is that poor little rich boy archetype, but he also transcends that. And I'm just really impressed in a show that puts so much emphasis on narrative and meta narratives, and how impacting them means providing yourself with character growth and an arc. Nate seems to be the one who's just kind of going with it, you know? He seems to be the most free, in my opinion, because he seems to be the one who is less the least affected by Gossip Girl, by the meta narratives of his own life, by the romantic entanglements that he constantly finds himself within. He seems to be the most nihilistically free, you know what I mean? The most nihilistically abandoned, which kind of makes him the most blissful character on this show. I do like Nate a lot. Nate is fascinating to watch. He really is, and he's a fascinatingly constructed and composed character because, like I said, I think that Josh Schwartz was treating him a bit loose, you know, giving him a bit more room for opportunity. And I really couldn't tell where his story was going to go, and that made it pretty exciting. And I love when shows are designed like that, when there is a design, but there are a few unknown variables to keep things interesting and exciting, and able to change on the turn of a dime. I also find it interesting that they did that whole episode about the Age of Innocence, right? The Edith Wharton novel, or the Martin Scorsese film, because the Gossip Girl is aligning itself directly with the hyper violence of high society, which violence is more a gesture, it's more a movement like that of a dancer's. It's about social graces and etiquette. Martin Scorsese called The Age of Innocence the most violent film he's ever made, and this coming from an actually brutal and ultra violent director who I really do appreciate. It makes so much sense. The Age of Innocence is the most brutal thing he's ever done, but the brutality comes from bat of an eyelash, the turn of a cheek, seemingly well-intentioned, but entirely vicious. And that's how we have Gossip Girl. I think it is more Cruel Intentions. I think it's more Dangerous Liaisons than it is The Age of Innocence, or even more A Room with a View. I get a lot of A Room with a View vibes, which A Room with a View is one of my favorite films ever made, so keep those vibes coming, please. Serena was a really great character. Thought she had a very interesting arc. I like seeing her bounce around the different kinds of men that that were fascinating a certain component of her, a certain quality within herself that she wanted to express or explore more. Like we had that artist, we had Dan, of course, and then we had Gabriel. Um, I think it's an incredible assortment that kind of exposes the the the, the multifaceted core of Serena van der Woodsen. Um, she's artistic and rebellious and beautiful. She is introspective, insightful, and always well composed. Yet she also has the elements of a Gabriel. She has the capacity for viciousness. She has the ability to manipulate and seduce. But even then, she has she has a history of being used by people who are more exploitative and powerful because she has a heart. 'Cause that's what I found interesting about Gabriel is that he definitely didn't wanna take Rufus's money. He tried not to several times. So there is a bit of heart to Gabriel. And I think that Serena at her worst, there is still heart there. But there's also all those other components. She's not simply the qualities of Gabriel do not simply, make her up or provide her with her totality of character. Like I said, she has Dan's insight and desires, and she also has, the artist's effortless self-expression and kind of rebellious instincts. Serena van der Woodsen's a very interesting character, but I think the most sophisticated parts of her are done with a nuance. They're done with who she is, at the time, like, currently within the plot, who she is engaging with, because that's a part of her that she's trying to amplify, and, I think she's a perfectly well-constructed character, and I loved watching Serena this season a lot. But yeah, Blair and Chuck, they are still my dream team. I love them so much. They're so cool. Blair went through a fucking lot, and so did Chuck. Everyone went through a lot. Everyone had a real arc, you know? Everyone impressed me. I'm so impressed by this season of television. I think it's beautiful. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. One of the most flawless things I have ever seen. If it keeps it up, if Gossip Girl can keep this kind of thought, this kind of beauty, this kind of like eroticism, this kind of fucking cool shit, if it could keep, if it could stay as good as it is right now, then it will be the best television show I've ever seen, and definitely the best teen drama I have ever watched. I am thrilled and I'm grateful for this show at this point. I have a lot of high hopes. In fact, all I have are high hopes. This show has done nothing but intensely amaze and shock me. I'm in love with this show. I'm in love with every character on it, and I can't wait to see where Gossip Girl will lead me next. Thank you so much for watching my video. I'm Zach. I'm your cult boyfriend. Subscribe to my channel. Go on this Gossip Girl journey with me. We're still at the beginning after all. We have a lot more to get through. Comment with your thoughts on Gossip Girl, with your thoughts on my reading, my insight concerning the show. And also tell me who your favorite character is. Try not to do any spoilers, because I do read these comments and I'm trying not to get spoiled. Full disclosure, oh my god, I was talking to a girl who shall not be named in real life. I brought up this show and how I'm enjoying it, and this fucking bitch told me who Gossip Girl was. Luckily, it's not ruining my experience of watching the show, but she told me who the identity of Gossip Girl was. She told me that when I was watching season 1. That is deeply affecting my viewing of this. It's not fair. It's only affecting it in so much as I wish I didn't know, but it hasn't ruined it for me at all. And especially since I'm calling it best teen drama ever. Right now, currently, after watching 2 seasons, I think it's the best teen drama ever. I just wish this chick who was flirting with me didn't think that the best way of flirting with me was to spoil the identity of Gossip Girl. And I asked her, like, okay, well, do you find that out, like, in the first season or something? And she said, no, you find that out in the final episode. I'm like, you ruined over 100 episodes of television, or you tried to. I blocked her, and I have not seen her again. You don't fuck with me and my teen dramas. I don't care how cute you are. Fuck off. Don't spoil it in the comments, I guess is what I'm saying. That's the moral value of the anecdote I just told you. Yes, I can't believe I know who the Gossip Girl is. I knew who it was by episode 3 because that's when I talked to her. Fuck you. Fuck you. I had a mental breakdown. I had a nervous fucking breakdown by the end of this video. I hope you appreciated it. Thank you for watching me. I'm gonna leave before they put me in a straight jacket.